Hey there guys, I am SonicGhost and welcome back to some more Let's Play Super Mario Galaxy 2. Last time we got all the green stars in World 3 and this episode, World 4 green stars. Enough said, let's go big with Supermassive Galaxy. All our green stars are conveniently in the first mission because really that's all this level had. The first mission had a secret star and then it had that one comet that was basically a speedrun of the first level, so you play this 3 times, green star makes you play it another 3 times, so we played this level 1-to-1 when you really want to break it down a total of 6 times. They really wanted you to just explore Supermassive Galaxy in the same way. They didn't really change it up all that much, to be honest. It's a cool little throwback to the massive stuff from like Super Mario Bros. 3, but after a while it's like, kind of done this a lot. To be fair, Nintendo's referenced Super Mario Bros. 3 a lot over the years. This was really around the time where people were starting to get kind of sick of it, because it was between this and then some of the stuff from New Super Mario Bros. Wii, people were just kind of feeling a little burnt out with some of the Mario nostalgia. But to be fair, after that, pretty much every company kind of went into the nostalgia card because it sells. So we had a lot of games going back to the roots. Sonic did that with Sonic 4 and Sonic Generations. Mega Man did it with Mega Man 9 and 10. So it was just kind of a common thing around this time period for companies to kind of just go back to the roots. And now the indie scene is really the big one that's doing that, because a lot of the indie games, they're very retro. Like one of the biggest ones coming to mind is Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is an 8-bit game that could probably run on a NES if you just tweak it enough. So that's just one of the many examples of the indie scene really liking the retro scene in general. But a lot of indie games I notice really like the 8-bit style for retro. And that kind of bugs me to a point where it's cool, but it's definitely one of those overdone things in the indie scene at this point. We don't really see that many adaptations of like early 3D style indie games at this point. The only one I can really think of off the top of my head is a Hat in Time, because Hat in Time pretty much plays out kind of like an N64 game, even when it comes down to its graphics. If you turn down the graphics settings on Hat in Time, you can pretty much make it look like an actual N64 game. It's one of the only ones I can think of that really tries to go for that early 3D style of not only gameplay, but also graphics too. I mean, a lot of games definitely went back to that early 3D style when it comes to gameplay, because there's a lot of games I can think of did that. Like Yooka-Laylee is another one that comes to mind, because it's basically just trying to be Banjo-Kazooie once again, this time with a different character set, which, you know, makes sense. It's from the original creators. Yooka-Laylee was a pretty fun game. I enjoyed my time with it, and it's definitely a game I need to go back to and finish. As I got near the very end of the game, I believe I got to the last world, and then kind of stopped because at that point, I was just pretty much doing cleanup. I kind of wanted to do that before fighting the final boss, so I just didn't really have time for it. This green star! Oh man, I'm gonna take a minute to stop and talk about this green star here. Man, this one is a pain to get. They really expect you to use the homing ground pound to get that star. And the problem with it is, sometimes the homing ground pound just completely missed the target. So, you'll be doing the homing spin to angle yourself just right to do a homing ground pound into the green star. But if you miss, you're a homing torpedo just going straight up to space. And that's happened to me more times than I can count. It's ridiculous. Homing ground pound is your best friend for green stars, but sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate. And, oh man, that green star I just mentioned, that's like the prime example. Oh, that green star, it's just, I like it and I hate it at the exact same time. It's just one of those really cool in concept, but really bad in execution kind of green stars. Some green stars, they're infuriating to get, and I could be here all day kind of talking about that. I've already rambled about that enough during this green star playthrough, so I'm not going to really drag that out anymore. We'll just mention the green stars I'm not really a fan of when we get to them. But now it's Honey Hop time. I like the bees here in the Galaxy series. One of my favorite things actually about Galaxy 1 is I never actually got Super Mario Galaxy with my Wii. I got my Wii in 2008. It was actually a system I asked for Christmas in 2007. But this was during the time where Wiis were super hard to get, because the Wii was such a popular system back in its launch. No stores really had a big stock of them. They were selling out the moment they restocked. So I remember my brother actually was able to get a hold of a Wii around Christmas time, but the problem was they wouldn't restock them until February. So I believe he got the Wii, he pre-ordered it from a GameStop in like November of 2007, and I didn't get the system until February 2008. So it took a couple months for them to actually get the system. It's ridiculous. But I'm gonna actually interject real quick my story because of this. I think I accidentally glitched the game here and kind of skipped a little thing of dialogue, because I believe the moment you land, that's when the Queen Bee is supposed to start talking to you. But because I immediately jumped the moment I hit the ground, I believe I had like a frame or two to do that, I skipped her dialogue entirely. And I'm pretty sure if I landed anywhere, she would have started to talk. So I got lucky and bounced off the enemies to get my flight meter back. I have no idea how I got that. That's one of those speedrunning tricks I just accidentally got. So, accidental speedrun hype. But going back to my Wii story, it doesn't really end there with me getting my Wii a couple months later. I was very grateful I definitely got my Wii, so I'm happy my brother was able to secure a pre-order like that. It was a really nice thing because I still have that Wii. I don't use it anymore, and it's just simply because it still works except for the SD card. The SD card reader on the Wii broke, and looking into it, for some reason one of the pins actually bends in the SD card reader. I'm not exactly sure how that happened. It might have been from me just taking out SD cards a lot, but even then, I've never had a single SD card slot in anything that had any pins break because of me just taking out cards, so it was a little weird. But unfortunately, that's the only real major problem it has, but the Wii still works, so I still use it from time to time for that reason. It's just not my main Wii at this point. But the big thing about that story I wanted to conclude with the bees was I didn't get Super Mario Galaxy at launch. I got the game actually a couple years after I had my Wii, but I actually got a case that came with the system from GameStop, and it had a picture of Bee Mario on the cover. It was a pretty nice little case for that reason. It was just a nice little thing to say, here's what this game is, and a little free advertisement for Galaxy. But I did play it as a rental. I believe I did rent it the same year I got my Wii in 2008. I just didn't end up owning it until a couple years later. But it's a fun game. And this was another one of those cases where I didn't own this game at launch, but I definitely did play it around that time. Again, this is a game I kind of picked up later on. In fact, actually, I got this game in 2015 when Nintendo first released the Wii games on the Wii U eShop. That's the version I've been playing for this entire playthrough, simply just because of convenience. I could just turn on my Wii U, select Galaxy 2, and then I'm in the game. I don't have to worry about putting in the disc every time, so it's very convenient for that sake. It's playing off the Wii U's hard drive, so it's pretty much instantaneous loading, but it's not really that much different from the disc. Because people have actually kind of compared that, using like a USB hard drive with homebrew mods, and then just using the disc and comparing the two load times, and they're pretty much the same actually. There's not really too much of a difference in most games. So, this was actually, speaking of that, this is one of those games that was one of the most pirated games I can think of. Super Mario Galaxy 2 at one point was reported as like the most pirated game on the Wii, which really shows us how much people wanted to play this game. They just ended up pirating it, which is definitely not something you should do. You should never pirate games, because that's, well, illegal for starters, so that gets him some serious trouble. But you're not supporting the developers at all when you pirate a game, because you're basically stealing their product. So definitely support these guys any way you can. Even if you can't get the game at launch at full price, you wait for some kind of price drop. Wait for a sale, wait for the game maybe to be out for a while, and then get a proper re-release or price cut in some way. I mean, that's why Nintendo nowadays does the Nintendo Selects program, which is basically just a re-release of the game at a cheaper price. And I'm not too big of a fan of the cover art they use with a lot of Nintendo Selects. It's just not really something I like personally, but it's definitely something I'm in favor of, because the Nintendo Select series is a great way for people to get a hold of these games. Because Galaxy 2, when it first came out, was $60. I believe this is one of the games that was in the Nintendo Selects program. I know for a fact that Galaxy 1 was one of those games, and it went from $60 to $20. That's a pretty big difference. So, if you can't get it at launch, wait a while and you'll definitely have a chance to play it. There's so many other games out there, it's really hard to keep up nowadays. So unless I know I want to play a game at launch, I usually just wait for that price cut sometime in the future and then pick it up, just for that reason. It's definitely a smart way to go, because of how many games are out there. Definitely don't have time for every single new release. So, yeah, definitely helps to wait for sales. And this game, I picked it up for about $10 when it came out on the Wii U, so that's dirt cheap. And I do own a physical copy of this game, and once again, it cost me about 10 bucks, brand new. So, yeah, that was really good. In total, 20 bucks spent on 2 different copies of Galaxy 2. That's great. For one of the best games on the Wii U, that's definitely a fantastic deal. The only downside to my new copy of Galaxy 2 was it didn't really come with a manual. Because if you buy new Wii games nowadays, they don't really have manuals. They just point you to their website saying, just look on the Nintendo site here and get your e-manual. So it's still there, it's just not packed in with the game, and it's kind of annoying for that reason. I miss the days of manuals. I really do. But there we go. We got all the green stars here in World 4, so another world down. So let's go ahead and take a look at our billboard and see all them gold crowns. That feels good. So now we have 3 more worlds to go. Next time on Let's Play Super Mario Galaxy 2, we'll continue on this green star hunt in World 5. I'll see you guys next time.